What happens when a cop with a power complex meets a woman who outranks him in every way that matters? It began on a quiet Wednesday night in Toledo, Ohio, just after 11 p.m. The streets were mostly empty, except for the occasional shift worker heading home, or, in this case, Lieutenant Colonel Adrienne Wallace, driving her government-issued black SUV after a late meeting at a military base 2 hours south. Nothing flashy about her car. Clean, simple, and quiet, much like her demeanor. Adrienne wasn't speeding, wasn't swerving, just humming softly to herself halfway home. Sergeant Daniel Mercer, a 15-year veteran of the Toledo Police Department, was parked off Reynolds Road sipping lukewarm coffee, bored and scrolling through his phone. The shift had been slow, but then he saw her car. Unfamiliar. Dark windows. He tossed his cup aside and pulled out. The lights of his cruiser came on before Adrienne could register what was happening. She calmly pulled over, hands visible. Window. Rolled down halfway just like she'd been trained. Mercer approached with his hand resting on his holster, flashlight in the other. No greeting. "License and registration," he barked. Adrienne complied slowly and asked, "Officer, may I ask why I'm being stopped?" Mercer squinted into her face with the flashlight. "You were drifting between lanes. Looked like you might be impaired." She raised an eyebrow but stayed calm. "That's a government vehicle. I'm a federal employee." Mercer smirked. "Doesn't mean you're above the law. Step out of the vehicle." Adrienne didn't argue. She asked for clarification. He raised his voice, then opened her door himself. She quietly turned on her phone camera and said, "Just so we're clear, this interaction is being documented." Mercer hesitated for the first time, but insisted. Adrienne stepped out with quiet dignity. Her civilian clothes did nothing to hide the way she carried herself, straight-backed, composed. Mercer made her perform a sobriety test. She passed it flawlessly. Still, he issued a citation for failure to maintain lane. Adrienne took the ticket without a word and drove off. What Mercer didn't know was that the story was far from over. Adrienne filed a formal complaint the next morning, not just with internal affairs, but with the Office of the Inspector General. The video she recorded was already in the hands of her legal team and quietly circulating through military legal channels. Back at the precinct, Mercer joked about the stop. "She flashed a government ID like I was supposed to care." Officer Diaz raised an eyebrow. "Did you say Adrienne Wallace, as in Lieutenant Colonel Wallace? She gave a talk at the academy last year. She's the real deal. 2 deployments, Bronze Star. She's not just military, she's respected." Mercer brushed it off. "On the road, I'm the authority." But something in Diaz's tone planted doubt. Days later, Mercer received an envelope. Notice to appear in court. Civil rights complaint. Plaintiff. Lieutenant Colonel Adrienne Wallace. Charges: unlawful detainment, intimidation, abuse of authority. Mercer laughed it off, but the tone at the station had shifted. Whispers followed him. The shield he'd hidden behind for years was beginning to crack. Adrienne, meanwhile, continued her duties at Fort Wayne. Calm, focused, she wasn't looking for headlines, just accountability. When the trial began, she entered the courtroom in full uniform, badges, medals, posture radiating discipline. Mercer sat across from her in a suit, the smugness gone. On the stand, Adrienne told the truth, plain and clear. No embellishments, no drama. The video played. First her phone, then Mercer's body cam. His tone, his aggression, his dismissiveness. The jury listened in silence. Cross-examination tried to paint Mercer as simply cautious. Adrienne didn't flinch. "I was driving legally. I was calm. I identified myself. I recorded it because silence isn't protection." Mercer was asked why he escalated. "She questioned me." "Was that illegal?" "No." "Did she resist?" "No." "Would you have acted differently if you knew who she was?" Probably. That was the moment the courtroom understood. He didn't see a person that night. He saw someone not submissive enough. And now, in court, that bias was laid bare. 3 days later, the verdict. In favor of the plaintiff. $35,000 in damages. Permanent record. Internal review triggered. No applause. Just a quiet recognition that something had changed. Adrienne didn't celebrate. She didn't need to. She had made her point. Weeks later, she stood before a room of recruits. Respect isn't owed. It's earned. Power isn't a shield. It's a responsibility. And when someone forgets that, it's up to us to remind them. She wasn't a hero. She didn't want attention. But her story traveled, quietly but powerfully. Because authority without accountability is just a mask for weakness. And courage, even silent, even small, is how justice begins.